Welcome everyone to this HRIR vaccine for business and people growth. I'm going to keep my presentation limited. I've already shared the profiles of both Jasbir and Archana. And Jasbir brings to the table a tremendous experience, both in the pharma and the Tata Steel experience. More so pharma because that was the one industry which was operating during lockdown. Plus, they are the lifesavers. And the pharma, especially Cipla chairman, has very interestingly given us a lot of insights. And we thought we should listen to Cipla. That's where I really pushed and requested Jaspreet to be part of this whole exercise. And I'm glad Archana is part of this. Archana comes from a food industry, and two most important industries which are in the current situation more important. And with this introduction, I thought I would leave it to Jaspreet to start the whole session.
Thank you, Dean. Hi, good evening to everybody who's connected over the call. As Dean rightly put it, of course, I come from the food industry. But then more importantly, I think in COVID, where everybody is alarmed, it's keeping the health of people safe. While everybody think about medicines and all of that, do we also think about patients who are from asthma and breathing problems? They are more prone to it. And we're happy to have Cipla here because they are the major producers. As all of you know, they do respiratory, cardiovascular disease, arthritis, diabetes, and medicines related to that. While the lockdown and everything is happening all over India and we're battling towards this industry has been doing some amazing work. Thanks to Jasbir for his proactive way of thinking. While the lockdown was up and running, their industry was up and running in full swing. He ensured that there is no any amount of this is to the industry, not to the people, not to the business, handling everything so wonderfully well. Instead of me talking so much about it, I think let's hear from the horse's mouth. Over to you, Jasbir.
Thank you, Archana. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dean, for giving me this opportunity. I'll basically brief you about how we went through the experience of what all happened in the organization, how we experienced the entire COVID scenario. I would reflect back on around 17th of March and 16th, 17th of March when the first conversation started happening about the outbreak, and we were kind of trying to figure out that number of cases are increasing and what should we do. So people were struggling to understand the impact. And while we kept hearing about what's happening in the US and in Italy, it was difficult for us to comprehend that something of this kind could happen to us in India. But the first and the foremost thing which hit us was about the biometric, and that's when we started looking at what would change. I mean, that was a wake-up call for us to say that if this is the impact that this can create, what would it mean for us across the entire COVID tenure? And what I've tried to do is to classify the entire period of like last 2.5 months into 4 broad buckets. The initial phase of the pre-lockdown preparations and how we went about doing it. How did we manage the lockdown aspect of what happened? How did we react? How did we plan? What kind of awareness and motivation did we do across all the sites? And when I say all the sites, Cipla is the scope of this conversation is about the all of manufacturing sites that Cipla has. We've got 7 sites across 10,000 people and around 6,000 contract employees across these 7 locations. All 7 locations are different and they have the different challenges, nuances, and that's what kept us running all the time. Starting with, of course, most organizations have done the sanitization bit, but I think when we were reflecting back on what kind of effort that was put in by all our site HR colleagues, the site admin, site leaders, and it was humongous. And starting with the first few days, starting from 17th of March onwards, people were just grappling to figure out what does this mean? How do we want to react to it? What should we do? And people were learning from social media and also trying to figure out what kind of sanitization impact. Also to understand what are the implications in terms of what impact a COVID virus would have. So a lot of our people in terms of the medical fraternity also got into it. A lot of reading and a lot of research started happening. But while we were doing this, it was important for us to help people understand that from an employee standpoint, that this has just started coming in, and lots of rumors around COVID started happening that it's contagious, it's infectious, of course, and how does the infection? Is it community infection? or how does it spread, and what is it? Is there a treatment? Is there a vaccine? Is there a tablet? So those conversations that started off, but they were very low in number initially. So our thought was, should we continue to run our factories? Should we take a pause for a week and then start, or should we probably think of continue to run the factories for some time and see how this goes about? But our learning was that we took a small pause on around 18th or 19th of March because of the lockdown was announced on 21st. The day we decided, and the day the lockdown was announced, I think immediately afterwards, everybody started going back to their hometowns. And we realized that as being in the pharma industry, we can't stop our production, because if you stop production, then probably in a span of 1 month or 2 months time, probably the entire country would dry, the entire supply pipeline would dry out, and there would not be any medicine. So we realized that people would probably have more problems other than COVID. It could be diabetes, it could be blood pressure, it could be anything, cardio, or it could be cancer. Those people will, the impact would be much higher than COVID. And that's when we realized that it's important for us to come, whatever may, we will have to run our factories and produce medicines and keep taking care of our patients. And an important thing happened, that the entire pharma industry came together. And at that point in time, the heads of all pharma companies met up with the government, and then the process of interacting as one point of contact with the government started. So therefore, we got the some kind of clearance to continue to operate. Uh, Starting with the RFID cards, looking at the special leave to be given, introducing the work from home. The key essence, if you see in this slide that we tried to put together, is how fast we reacted to a situation that was coming in, how fast we preempted something that's going to happen, and how fast we would be able to respond to the stimuli. Saying 20,000 RFID cards is not a small number. It may, having anticipated and shipped them across the 7 sites in a span of 4 days time and activated them, also helped us a lot, because the entire biometric system stopped. Special medical leave for expecting women colleagues was extended. Training for housekeeping, all of these things slowly started gaining a lot of momentum. The second important thing that I'm going to talk about in the subsequent slides is also about the governance that we brought in. But during the lockdown period, every day was a new day in terms of the curfew passes to be made or should not be made. If you have to make, you have to go back to the employee database. Is the employee database updated? Because a lot of people keep coming in new in the organization. And hence, how do you make sure that how do you call critical people to the sites? You have to classify people between critical to operations and necessary for operations. And I mean, it was a mammoth exercise, going in every day in the morning, coming back, and then trying to figure out that what's going to happen tomorrow. A lot of coordination interactions across all the 7 sites to make sure that we are all in the same boat. Masks, I think 2.5 lakh masks were procured, because there are some masks which have longevity of 8 hours, one-time use, multiple time use. And as we did, we learned. Buses, because of social distancing norms which came in, probably the idea was you had to almost double the number of buses. And one of the things that I'm going to talk about is how did we sustain the entire production, was also some of these things that we were able to anticipate. When we anticipated, the underlying factor for all these things that we did was our philosophy for caring for life. I think that's where we said that anything that we would do it to make sure that we value our employees, we value our associates, we value the members of the Cipla family, and hence anything that we do would revolve around all of that. And I think right from the buses, when I speak about buses, I think a very small thing, we normally differentiate between our employees and contractor employees. For very small things. For example, if there is an accident that happens, we would first ask that is it an employee or a contract employee? At Cipla, we do not differentiate. For us, everybody is a human being. And I think that's where the difference started. We said if we are giving any facility to our employees, we must give it to our contract employees also. And that would mean a huge cost. But at that point in time, it was decided that let's not look at cost. Let's look at a humane approach and make sure that everybody gets the same facility across the board. During the lockdown phase, we had a lot of ups and downs, uncertainty. People went back home to hometowns. and our attendance went down very, very drastically, almost to a level of 25-30%. And our production, while we were bringing in people, what's important to understand is it's not the number of people who come in. If you have to run an operation, you need a crew to run that operation. So if the crew is not there, the proper mix is not there, you can't run that operation even if you have 50% of the population. So to identify the right people to come in, critical to operations, and then we started identifying each and every person where they are based and how we could enable them to come back. And that's when we started this third phase of return to work appeal. We conducted a town hall across all the sites, almost on a Saturday evening, to touch base with the life of the employees' family, not just the employees, but the family of the employees, so that we are able to understand and address their concerns. And I think that is something that worked very well for us. We had a medical director, our business heads addressing queries directly to the employees and their family members, which explained what all we've done, what all we are willing to do to make sure that people are safe, and at the same time, what does COVID mean for all of us? What is the organization or the industry working on from a treatment standpoint? What's happening in the world of in terms of this pandemic? And that created a sense of transparency of what we were willing to answer questions. We took every question and answered most of them, and I think that helped us a lot. Second, there was a huge pressure because a lot of organizations in the pharma industry had launched attendance incentive, and that created a lot of peer pressure for us that would Cipla also go in for an attendance incentive. And by that time, with all the efforts that we made, we were able to reach a level of 60-65% of attendance. But we realized that it's not just the attendance incentive, it's about how do you recognize the right behavior. And the right behavior was about risking somebody's life to come to the place of work, manufacturing medicines for a larger patient base across, not just in India, but across globally. So we said we must recognize all our colleagues who are doing this, and then we introduced the Living the Credo Award for all our associates and also our contract employees. Social distancing, we had multiple shifts that were brought in. We just swung into super action in terms of how do you maintain, stagger the shifts, how do you maintain your planning of operations to ensure that your production doesn't suffer. At the same time, you are able to get people at an hour, 1 hour gap, so social distancing doesn't get impacted, and the production continues to happen. Of course, letter to the societies, reaching out to people, mock drills. I think it's all about how we went about doing the entire piece of work with so much of collaboration across all the sites. If you can go to the next slide, I'll just I mean, a lot of work around, if I may say, every day in the evening, we used to plan for the next day. When we started looking at people of what group of people are not coming or not able to come. And therefore, the month of March had already passed, and we were at a decision point whether we should be paying salaries or not paying salaries. I think we did not have any difficulty in deciding that. We were very clear that all those people and these difficult times, we should not be looking at attendance, and we should be paying salaries to not just the contractor employees, our employees as well, and anybody in the contractor workforce who is not being called. He may be on the rolls, but he's not being called to come to work. But we should be paying that salary to them, because in these difficult times, I mean, earning a livelihood becomes extremely important, not just for you, but their families as well. So keeping all of this in mind, our thought process was very clear. We just went ahead and implemented these things. And I think all these things, point by point by point, worked in the favor of the organization, where employees, contractor employees, everybody started feeling that this is an institution, this is an organization who really cares for me. And hence I need to step forward and make sure that it's my time to deliver. And the entire agility piece on how we took calculated risks. I think kudos to the entire HR team at Cipla across manufacturing sites, and who swung into action in terms of the moment we used to decide that this is what we should do, the entire team was on the ground implementing it, right from creating audios of what is COVID, how you should maintain hygiene, how you should run it in the PA system at the site, because communication became an important aspect for us. How fast we could communicate, how effectively we could communicate. And while we were communicating what we wanted our colleagues to do, but also listen from them in terms of what kind of questions they have, what kind of concerns they have, and how can we answer them in a proactive manner. So in the entire PDs that we have, performance dialogues that we have in our unit, in our line every day, it used to start with a communication around safety, hygiene, and precautions that everybody would take on COVID. I think the agility was amazing across all the sites in terms of how we responded, social distancing arrangements, thermal scanning, and hand sanitizers. I think these are things that every organization did. The only differentiation that I would see is how we started in this game earlier on, in terms of the caring for life aspect of insurance, because a lot of people in the contractor labor workforce were very concerned whether they should be coming to the place of work, but they've got parents at home and they've got family members. So we introduced the COVID insurance for all our contractor employees for a value of around $25,000. But the interesting aspect here is how fast we anticipated this would be a need of the hour, how fast our insurance team and our finance team work together in a collaborative manner. And the HR team put this together in place for all 8,000 across approximate 8,000 employees, not just for the contractor employees, but their families as well. So if you see a trend, anything that we did across the organization, not just for our employees, but the family of the employees as well. And I think that's one of the key differentiators that we were able to see. And if you see communication, I'll go to the quick governance part of it and then go to the communication. I think entire intervention that we started off right from the special medical leave that was given to expecting mothers, work from home given to people, the work-life assistance program was launched. We already had one, but we created a huge campaign around it and let people understand that during these times, if you need any support, you need to reach out to a counselor, or your family needs to reach out to a counselor. How do you go about doing it? And we had a record usage of work-life assistance program during this time of around 300 people reached out. The number seems 300 to be large, but it's an example of where we never used to have more than 5 and 10. But suddenly we had 300 people using the work-life assistance program. So this became a interesting thing, and we pulled out the themes as to what is it that people were talking about. Of course, we had an action plan around it as well. On the governance, the 7 sites worked in a very well coordinated fashion, and not just the sites. We also reached out to all our depots. We got all our depots across the country, and they were working in tandem with all our sites together, not just on attendance, but on all the facilities that we were trying to provide to them. And I'll touch upon some of the additional things that we did across to make sure that what we did. I think one of the most interesting things that we did, and if it is covered in the next slide, is about when people come to the place of work, how do you make them feel comfortable that they're walking into a safe work environment? How do you make them feel that this is a clean, healthy, and hygienic environment? And that's when we launched our self-declaration, online declaration thing. We started, of course, the self-declaration on a paper around 25th of March, but we made it online from 4th of April onwards. So we're sitting on, let's say, around 6th or 7th of June. I mean, this is where I would say that earlier on in the game, we realized this is something that's going to be useful. Not just the self-declaration form was used by Cipla, but I think we shared the self-declaration app with the entire pharma industry. We wanted to help everybody to understand how they can leverage what we have been able to develop in-house. And this was a very interesting online thing. You come in before the place of work, you fill it up, it gives you a color code, and that color code will tell you whether you can go inside or you need to go to the occupational health service, and the doctor would tell you to go and get yourself checked up. We didn't leave it to that guidance that you should go and get yourself checked. We made sure that the employee or the associate would go to the doctor in a car, in a special vehicle, and get the checkup done, and then probably leave him home, and then come back and say, okay, the guy is safe. And there was a mechanism to cross check with everybody as whether the person is safe tomorrow. Every day calls were being made to these people by our HR and admin teams. I think all the focus of communication was, it's not just doing it once, it's doing it in a very thorough manner. You pick up something, but you do it so well that you make it a process, and you don't have to be reminded that today I have to do it or tomorrow I have to do it. It is done automatically every day. And I think one of the other important aspects that we did was wherever our sites are located, we reached out to the Tehsildar, police, Panchayat, government agencies very proactively. We, of course, used our CSR colleagues to work with us, donate masks, sanitizers for all the services people who were there. We also did a lot of messaging. The communication was, when we realized that communication needs to be done more and more, uh, we realized it is not that we should do it. We created a platform where our employees would come forward and they would communicate with the rest of the employees. And not just that, the family of the employees, we created competitions where people, the family of the employee would come in and they would create videos, and they would say that we are so proud that our parents are going to the place of work and producing medicines for not just India, but for patients globally. These are small things that which were done, which created a huge impact. And I think while it was a challenge, but I think this created a huge opportunity for not just Cipla, but all of us to reach out to the employees and the family of employees. And this helped us create an emotional connect of how you are associated with Cipla as a larger organization, as a larger institution, as a large family that you have. And regular updates through testing centers, employee handbooks, which were made on audio as well as the graphics. Leadership outreach programs were created. A lot of town halls were conducted. While I say all of this, it sounds very simple, but every initiative that we would do would mean a lot of effort to reach out to each and every employee and their family members. I will go to the next slide, please.
Just be a quick time check. We are at 7:23.
Yeah. While we were doing this, I'll quickly run through one or two more slides. While we were doing this, we realized life is not so simple. And as challenges would come in, we had a challenge in one of our sites in Sikkim. And we had a flash strike there. People were not willing to come to the place of work in spite of whatever we were doing. It was a contractor-led strike. And there was a work stoppage for 2 days, 2.5, 3 days. And that's when we decided that it's not about solving the problem from a short term. While all of us are very tempted to solve the problem in the short term and get things sorted out, closed, concluded, and let's get back to work. But we realized anything that you would do right now would have an impact on a long term. So we wanted to solve the problem from a long term perspective, and we took a very hard call. And we said, all right, fine. If there is a strike which has happened, we're not going to take it lightly. We did complete inquiries, we lodged FIRs, people got arrested. I mean, proper disciplinary procedures were followed, people were terminated. And I think we had to do everything that is possible in a very short span of time that we could all think about from an employee relations standpoint. There were work stoppages which were threatened, but we were able to resolve. We managed the government. I mean, when I say manage, means we had to do the government outreach program with our CSR people. We had to go and explain our point of view. We were called in by the local MLAs, ministers to explain what have you done and why have you done. And we said, no, it's a hard stand that we've got to take because we can't let indiscipline seep into the organization. And similarly, we had some challenges in Indore as well, where local media picked up some stuff and blew it out of proportion. So managing the external, managing the internal, managing the entire environment became a learning ground for us. But it's like we were running towards the goalpost and we were still getting hurt and we were still getting up again and again start running. So I think that's the essence of the entire thing that happened. I can go to the next one, couple of.
Sure.
Okay, so this is just a flavor of the sites that we had. We had our own challenges, but each and every site we had difficulties. The government laid down norms that you can only run 10-hour shifts, 12-hour shifts. In Bangalore, we had people coming across from different states. Goa, we have some 700 people got stuck up in different states from the Goa border. They were not able to come. We have to manage. Kurkum, it's in a place which is near Pune and which is a village. We had our own difficulties of Tehsildar, Patwaris and all to negotiate. So we realized that a new stakeholder management exercise had opened up for us. and we created a kind of a template or a matrix saying we should be meeting them proactively every week and updating them about what are we doing rather than they coming and asking us what's happening. So I think again I would say that the HR team did a fabulous job of whatever we said, and we said we must set the ball rolling. It just happens seamlessly. I'll go to the next one and quickly. So this is just a snapshot of what kind of difficulties we faced during the attendance and how it went up and how we stabilized at around 75% now. Various interventions were taken during the course of time. Yeah, we can keep moving. That's fine. And I think a lot of communication around how you before leaving for work, all this that you see in terms of a mobile app, or if you talk about the intervention that were brought in, I would say most of it started happening around in the period of around 20th to 30th of March and the 4th of April. 4th of April was the key date for us when most of these things were coming into place, and that's where what gave us an edge, if I may say so, in terms of ensuring that people understand that the intent of our organization is in the right place, and hence we must step forward and do whatever it needs. We can go to the next one. Yeah, I think I can just quickly summarize in terms of the entire experience of last three months. What have we been able to achieve? We've been able to achieve the trust of our employees in a very short span of time, and that's the reason I say this is an opportunity. In most organizations, if they would have seen this as an opportunity, that this would be the right time to address, come forward and do whatever it takes to take care of your employees, it goes a very long way. On the production front, we went down by 25% in the month of March. We came back in the month of May, and in the month of in the month of April we came back, and in the month of May we were up by 30%. So in the first quarter, we've been able to meet the pre-COVID demand for medicines that are required in India. So that's a key outcome. Uh, in terms of transparency, we were seen, our employees saw us as a transparent set of people in trying to make sure that we take care of each one of them in the best possible manner. And I think that's where I will take a pause. There are slides available, so probably if there are any questions, so I can help me with the next
Thanks,
steps.
Leslie. That was really amazing. The kind of work you've done in every part of it, be it PIR, PPR, communication, and all employees, not just the contract or the permanent employees, women. I think across all segments, you've done amazing and phenomenal well, and your team. We have a couple of questions which has come earlier, so I'm going to shoot out to you one after the other. The first one is on the migrant labor. I'm sure you did explain you had about 6,000 contract employees across different sites, and I'm sure you would also have some migrant laborers which are there. So throughout COVID, we've been hearing about how migrant laborers been wanting to go back home, and they be having difficulty and all that. Did you face any of these challenges in your sites, or how did you tackle them?
So we did have some challenges in the initial phase, but I think the good part was again a fast realization that this is going to come up, and all of us are dependent to a certain extent on contract employees. The important thing is we should be looking at them as human beings and not just employees, and that's when we swung into action in terms of not just catering to giving them salaries even when we were not able to call them, because there were a couple of days that we didn't need them. We had to tell them that you stay at home, please don't come, because we were also trying to figure out. But I think giving them salaries in time, giving them transport in line with what we were doing for our own employees, because they stay for almost 2 hours away from the site at places, giving them free food, which most organizations do. And not just that, we also kind of created a mechanism that they would, some of them would get packed food on certain intervals once in a week, because at times groceries were also not available. So the certainty of having a job and getting paid in a fair manner helped contract employees stay back. And when we launched the Credo Award for them, I think that really helped us turn the table around, and the attendance for contract labor went up from almost 60 to 70% to 95%. We have no struggle of our contract employees. All our employees are staying in the same location where they were. and we don't have any issues of people going back or migrant labor coming back. They are there at the site and they're working.
That's phenomenal. That's amazing. Next question to you. You did explain that there are different plants which you had. You had in Goa, you had in Bangalore, you have in Sikkim and different places. Anything which you felt was something which was teething and felt that because of the culture, right? So what happens or what, and again, the lockdown dates, as you correctly mentioned, in Tamil Nadu, there's still lockdown going on. Right there in Maharashtra, you have in certain pockets which has been relaxed and all that. You feel some certain cultural awareness. Of course, the HR team did support you, the local HR team, but something which you want to point out saying this is something which is teething and something we need to look at for the line managers and the HR folks?
I think one of the bigger challenges which we faced in two sites, which was Sikkim and Indore. Uh, Goa was a green zone.
Mhm.
They took early action. They did a lockdown. We did not have many challenges. People in Goa remained in Goa, so COVID did not enter Goa. It's only now that they've allowed migrant labor coming in or people who were outside coming in, and that's when it's happening. But in Indore, I think as number of cases increased, the challenges which we saw were coming in from the family members, the societies, which were not allowing people to come in and go out because of the fear of having COVID or acquiring COVID from outside. In Sikkim, the culture is about they were just not bothered about what money you would give them or what kind of facilities you would give them. They were very clear that they just did not want to come to work. They said, just give us, as long as the lockdown continues, we will not come to work. And that's the kind of a conversation they had. There are some of our partner colleagues, companies which went to the extent of luring them by giving so much of facilities, but in spite of that, it didn't work for some of them. And I think from a culture standpoint, it all comes back to a standpoint of how do you tell them without telling them through your actions or your what you do, as that you really value them, and it just doesn't happen overnight. It's something that they would see that the company has been fair to them all throughout, and this is a time when the company is asking us to do something and we should be stepping forward. Challenges in Buddy were different because it's a very typical terrain. Even if you are in Himachal, you have to cross Punjab and then enter Himachal again to enter the Buddy region where you have a site. So we got a lot of people got stuck up in different parts of Himachal, and we had to send a lot of buses to bring them back. But the entire thing was about safety. Entire thing was about taking calculated risks and how we communicated with the group of people to make them feel safe.
Okay, I have another question for you. I mean, maybe a little sensitive and not. See, this is a season. I mean, you did tell that you had to pay. You don't have to pay the laborers extra. There are we read in articles that a couple of companies had to pay little over and above double wages, etc., to retain staff. That was one. We also read about companies where they didn't have a choice because the business is not running. It's not because if they wanted to. They may have to slash down on the increment percentages or on the performances and things like that. But did you have any such issues, or how did Supla handle it? Or you were okay? Some thoughts on that, please.
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting question, Archana. I think one of the things that we did was about being very clear about communicating the what we were doing. We did not want to leave it to a surprise. We were running the PMS cycle. The performance management cycle continued to run as normal. We had a hitch for around 15 days. We took a pause and then it again came back to normal. The end-year assessment was going on, and everybody knew that 1st of June when it comes, it's an increment time for us. But we had to be very clear that there were huge production losses, and what we were able to foresee in the next couple of months in terms of the things would be very, very difficult in terms of business environment, economic environment, and hence we called out earlier on and said we conducted a massive town hall, a corporate town hall across all the entire organization. Around 15,000 people participated in that, and we clearly said that times are going to be extremely difficult. It's important for us to save everybody's livelihood and employment, and that is going to be our prime focus. We won't want to let anybody go home. We want to protect everybody's employment, but we will not be extending increment in the first quarter. Also, it might not be done in the second quarter. If the business picks up and if things get back to normal or near normal, we will be reviewing this decision in the second quarter, end of second quarter. And I think calling out clearly and not leaving it to the rumor mill or not leaving it to ambiguity helped us a lot.
Amazing. I think your transparency in this kept it going. Last question to you, Jaspreet. You spoke, I mean, about your resilience and you've done a lot of stuff on that and you kept it going, is what you've been saying. If you have to say, like, of course, you did mention that there were lots of ups and downs. Everything is not a bed of roses. Things where you had to hit back, come back, and then rework and go. So a lot of people connected over the call, and each of them are doing their best in their particular field and trying to find out. And of course, they're doing very good for the business and for the people. If you have to say, okay, hey, look out, these are the couple of points or watch out areas which you need to be mindful of, what is that you would like to tell us?
I think my couple of learnings for me is you should take things very seriously. I mean, people normally tell me as a person that I take things very seriously, but I still feel that there is still scope to take it a little more seriously. How do you pick up early warning signals is the key here. We normally tend to say, all right, it's okay. We'll manage. No, it's not possible. You can't manage. If things go out of control, you just can't manage. Then you're just firefighting. It's important to spend enough and more effort before the event has happened and prevent it rather than letting it happen and then doing firefighting, because it takes up your bandwidth. It creates it creates a lot of negativity around it, and also gives you a sense of, failure is not a right word, but it gives you a sense of taking a pause, which is not required because there is huge momentum that's got built up. Communication is very important. Communicate, and communicate. Do not hesitate that you are over communicating. You must communicate, and let people be bombarded with information, and let them know that this is what all of us are doing. It has to be both ways. Open up all channels of communication. Agility, extremely important to respond fast. You can't spend too much time on thinking. You can't spend too much time on taking decisions that should I do this or should I not? And you have to take calculated risks. Time is of essence and you can't wait. You just can't wait. And there are times when you have to take financial decisions. You want to take decisions of stopping something or not stopping something, closing the site or quarantining a place because you've seen something suspecting, which is important. You just need to swing into action, go with your gut feel, take your team along, collaborate. And I think important to take a decision. And given the entire exercise, of course, I would say you need to pray as well. And prayers also help a lot, because there have been times where we were stuck that somebody was detected somebody's family member was detected with COVID, and the person came up and said, and luckily for us, the self-declaration app was so rigorously followed that the person had stopped coming for almost a week. And we had quarantined everybody who that person may have interacted with. Our systems were very good, I would say. And of course, a lot of prayers also help a lot.
That's amazing.
Okay. Brilliant, Jaspreet. Two questions. One from Dr. Krishnamurthy. Non-ESI COVID insurance, what is your additional budget spend? I don't know whether you can share it. If you don't want to share it, it's fine.
No, I don't mind sharing it, because we did consider this aspect that if it has already been covered under ESI, should we be spending this additional amount or not? Because most of the people were covered, and it is not just the contractor employees. I must mention that when we have a job contract like a Sodexo or a Blue Star or other companies which have job contracts with us, we covered that group of employees also. We just didn't leave them out. Everybody, bus drivers to a security personnel, to everybody was covered. And this costed us, I would say, I can give a roundabout answer in terms of per person basis or the overall cost. It costed us almost around 60-65 lakhs for this group of people. And not just, as I mentioned, it was not just for the employee, because we realized that God forbid if an employee has it, he goes back home, he infects his family members. So we covered the family members also. So we actually covered 18,000 lives.
Wonderful.
Of course, a non-related question, you can need not answer also. Do you have any business plan for the migrants outside Cipla?
So I think I would not be able to answer that question in a very straightforward manner, but we don't have a challenge from that point of view. But yes, we are concerned because it not impacts us, but it impacts the entire community around us. And a basic philosophy that we live in, we can't live in an island of excellence. So we need to make sure that the communities we operate in are also they have a livelihood. Uh, at this point in time, I would just leave it here. But yes, we are concerned about them as well.
Great. Of course, everybody is asking when is the vaccine going to be ready. I can only talk about a HR vaccine, not about a pharma vaccine.
I think his researchers are already on the job, maybe.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Jasbir. It's been a wonderful listening to you. Is it okay to share this presentation with the participants?
Yes, I don't think that should be a problem.
That's wonderful. Because it will be a valuable guide for people who are going to now start operating.
Yeah, if that is of help to people, and if somebody can make use of it, and we would be very happy.
Thank you so much, Yashbir. Thank you.
Thank you, Archana. Thank you, Dee. Thank you
We
so much
kept
for
it
this
short, but I
opportunity.
thought it was a very brilliant session. Thanks a lot. I'm sorry that I pushed you.
That's perfectly fine. Thank you for giving this opportunity.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jasbir. Thanks.